Here comes the juicy. What are your thoughts on Columbia's program? Getting ready for graduation.
Aquí estamos.
Look at everyone's fit though.
Porque estamos ya casi.
So casual.
Casi estamos saliendo al aire.
Business on top, party in the bottom. Except for Jay. Jay came dressed to impress. I see Brian too. Brian came snatched.
Look, this is not the ending we deserve at all. It's not even remotely close, but even so, guys, we actually did it, all right? We finished almost everything. These last 2 years have flown by just so quickly, and I'm honestly so surprised that we're even in this position right now. It felt like just yesterday when, we all came into this program as complete strangers, and yet this has been an unbelievably long and difficult, but still rewarding journey. And personally, I would not have been able to make it to where we are now if not for the people who make up this class. Thank you for all the memories, like the dance breaks during Dr. Prieston's class, the late nights in the VEC and Hammer studying for neuro and everything, but mostly neuro. All the messages we spammed on GroupMe right before something was due. All the well-deserved night outs. And the game night where, Dr. Geller, he lost in the first round of cornhole, even though he was extremely confident he'd win, but he lost in the first round to Steven. And also our basketball team for just giving it their all. And they showed everyone who the most fun team is at Columbia. And most importantly, and finally, thank you to all of you for being you and for teaching me what it means to be the best OT I can possibly be.
It's crazy to think that just 2 years ago, we were strangers sitting in the lecture hall, diagnosing ourselves with imposter syndrome, the psychological belief that we did not belong here at Columbia University Medical Center. Flash forward to now, not only did we belong, but we made this program our home. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because if there's one thing we learned during this pandemic, it is that our Zoom attention span is close to non-existent. I decided that the best way to sum up our experience over the last 2 years is to put it into the documentation format that we have finally mastered thanks to this program. As of May 21st, 2020, 55 out of 55 OT students completed 24 courses consisting of 8 presentations, 19 assignments, 15 papers, 7 case studies, 8 quizzes, 4 lab practicals, 31 exams, 4 level 1 fieldwork rotations, and 1 level fieldwork 2 rotation, independently and successfully, with minimal emotional dysregulation, to enter the field as OTRs. In summary, I am proud to say that we completed our long-term goal and are ready, well, almost ready, for discharge. Looking back, we have learned so much about each other in this profession. We took an OT lab with no windows and made it an optimal environment to learn by filling it with friendships, laughs, random dances, and memories. Defining the term occupational therapy is never an easy task, but thanks to this program, we have learned the true meaning of occupational therapy. One of the best qualities of OTs are their ability to problem solve and see the bright side in difficult situations. As today is very different than what we intended it to be, I am glad we were all able to come together and celebrate this outstanding achievement.
Here's to the early morning classes and the late night study groups, to the heart-to-hearts with friends I'll hold near and dear forever, to the patients who changed my life when I was supposed to be changing theirs, to the professors who gave their endless support and encouragement, and to the program that gave me the tools, skills, and confidence to be the best OT I can be.
Thank you. Who's behind you? Like, besides 47 people?
My family. That's a wrap. Hi guys. So I just finished my graduation ceremony. I am officially a master's mommy. If my eyes look a little red or irritated, please excuse it. I was an emotional mess. And people who know me already know I'm an emotional person. Like, I cry for everything. At the end of Coco, when Miguel sang to Mama Coco, I was a mess. So you could already imagine how emotional I was during this graduation. I'm actually a little glad it was virtual, not in person, because if it was in person, I would have been a hot mess. We have come to the end of the road. During that ceremony, I feel like it just really hit me, and I'm going to miss my classmates so much. And we've said it a couple times throughout our years together that we got really lucky with our cohort. I really feel like I couldn't have been with the most supportive, kind, genuine people, and I'm gonna miss everyone so much. And I just want to say congrats to everyone. Congrats to the class of 2020. We pushed through under these crazy circumstances, but we made it. And yeah, I'm gonna stop before I get emotional again. But since I officially graduated and I finished the academic portion of OT school, I still have clinical rotations and my boards to pass, so journey's still not over. But since I officially finished the academic portion of OT school, I thought it would be fitting to answer some of your questions about OT school. I asked you guys to send me questions either in the comment section of my videos or to my Instagram DMs, and I did get a lot of questions. If I'm looking over here a lot, it's because I have my laptop out and that's where the questions are. I also separated it into like 2 different categories. So the first part of the questions are going to be like about OT school, the application process, just OT in general, and then the second part of the questions are more personal questions, so about Columbia specifically, my stats. So this is a pretty hefty list. We have some questions to get through, so I'm just going to jump right into it. The first question that was asked was, if a school does not have a specific pre-OT program, could you still be accepted into grad school as long as you hit the prerequisites? Yes, 100% yes. This was actually my case. There's a lot of undergrad programs out there that do have like a pre-OT major or a pre-OT track. My undergrad didn't have one, so I just majored in psychology and I took the prerequisites, and yes, I got into OT school, and look at me now, graduating OT school. How many schools did you apply to / do most people apply to? I personally applied to 4 programs, but that was just me because I was broke and I didn't have the resources to spend all of this money on applications. But I feel like for the most part, people end up applying to either like 5 to 7 programs, but it's really up to you how much money and time you're willing to spend on applications. But you can apply to as many as your resources allow you to. I'm applying to OT school. I have a 3.0 GPA. Do you think I have a great chance of getting in? Now, I do know that there are some programs that they have a minimum requirement for GPAs. So some programs, they require at least a 3.3 if you're gonna apply, but there are others that don't have a minimum requirement and you kind of just shoot your shot. I say if you can, if it's possible, try to retake some classes to make that GPA a little more competitive, because you are going to be competing with people who have like over 3.5, 3.7, 3.8. So when you're applying, you just want to make sure that you stand out and that you're being as competitive as possible. Next question was, where did you track your shadowing? So OT programs require you to have a certain number of shadowing hours. I personally just asked every single site that I shadowed at to give me like proof that I shadowed there and how many hours I did there. So usually they would just write just a letter like with a sentence saying that I completed this amount of hours, and then they sign it. So that's what I handed into my programs. Do you have any suggestions on trying to get an internship centered around OT or that would look good on your resume / application when applying? So I interned with Special Olympics New Jersey. If you guys don't know what that is, I'll link it down below. It's an awesome organization and it's pretty well known. So I feel like that kind of gave me a leg up in terms of like looking competitive. Other than that, I feel like doing hours in a place that's not really common in OT. But I feel like people have a lot of hours in like the basic places, like in the hospital or like a hand therapy clinic. But if you go like outside the box and shadow in, let's say, like hippotherapy with horses, that's more uncommon, and it's gonna look more impressive that you shadowed in that area because you got to see how diverse OT can be, I guess. There's also like driving and community rehabilitation, mental health settings, so like any area that's not that common. But that's just my opinion. I'm not like in the committee to select people for programs. Like I don't know what happens in those rooms or what they base their decisions off, but these are just like things that I would assume they look for. So I was wondering what questions you had for your interviewer. So this came from the video where I talk about my interview experience and like tips for your OT school interview. You know what? I actually wrote down my questions and I think I still have them, so I'm gonna look for them. Here we go. All right, so I asked 3 questions. The first one was, I volunteered at an autism center where resources were scarce. Does this program teach on how to come up with creative interventions for low-income areas? That was number 1. Number 2, how is the faculty/student relationship at this program? And number 3 was, does this program provide their students with fieldwork opportunities, or do students typically find them on their own? How much of an input do students have when choosing their fieldwork placements? So these were just questions that I was genuinely curious about. So like I said in that video, I would come prepared with a couple of questions for your interview because you want to make sure that the program is as much a right fit for you than you are for them. Does that make sense? You want to make sure that the program is a right fit for you and not just them. You want to make sure the program's a right fit. I am not applying for OT school until fall 2021. When should I start getting my essays ready? Well, fall 2021 is more than a year away. So kudos to you for already thinking about your essay. I personally didn't start writing my essay until the summer before I applied. And it was like the late summer, like end of August. That's when I wrote my essay. So really it's up to you. You can start as early as you want, but I say wait until you have most of your shadowing or internship experiences done. That way you can write about those experiences and incorporate them into your essay. I've done research on what a typical OT may do, but how does this profession actually look like? Great question, because before I came into OT school, I didn't really know what the profession looked like. I thought I did, but I was very much surprised to learn all of the different things that OTs can actually do. In terms of what it can actually look like, there is a lot of creativity involved. You have to be able to think on your toes. You have to be able to come up with interventions that not only could be successful, but interventions that are actually beneficial to your individual client. It is very hands-on. You definitely break a sweat, especially in the phys aspect of it. When I did my level 1 at a hospital, when we were doing like these patient transfers, at that moment I realized, I was like, Crystal, you need to start working out, because I had I have no upper body strength. So I'm still working on it. But yeah, that's one of the things that actually motivated me to like start eating healthier and working out, because it is very demanding on your body sometimes. And some of the activities that you'll be doing with your patient, like you're gonna be sweating in there. I don't know if I answered your question. I feel like I could make a whole separate video about this question, just like detailing all of the different settings of OT. So let me know if you guys wanna see that, because this video I feel like is already getting pretty long and I'm not even like halfway through the question. What are some assumptions that are made about the career that aren't true? Let's see. That we are just like PTs. We are very similar, but we are not just like PTs. You can watch my OT versus PT video to figure out the difference. Another assumption is that we just work with kids, or that all we do is like play, or we're the handwriting teachers. Possibilities are endless with this career, and I feel like that's what makes people not understand. The fact that we can do so much, it kind of want to just like put us in one box, like, okay, like OT does this. I feel like the fact that we can do so much is what confuses people. I feel like most of the assumptions come from people seeing OTs in just one setting and then getting this whole idea of what the entire profession is based on that one setting that they saw them in. Can you be an OT assistant before being an OT? This question, I kind of don't know how to answer it. Because can you? Yes. OT assistant, it's its own separate career. Like OT and OT assistant, they're two separate things. You have to go to OT assistant school to be an OT assistant. So if you want to go to OT assistant school and then go to OT school, you can take that route, but just know that it's something that you can't do without a degree. Like you can be a rehab aide before going to OT school, and I don't think you need a degree to be a rehab aide, but you do need one for OT assistant. So Can you? Yes. Do I need to get good grades to go to OT school? Grades aren't the only thing that they look at, but you don't have to be like a straight A student. And I say that because I wasn't a straight A student and I got into OT school. But should you get good grades? Should you get decent grades? Yes, because OT school is very competitive and every year it's getting more and more competitive to get in. There are some people that don't get into OT school the first time around. I was pretty lucky that I got in my first time applying. Actually, that wasn't luck. That was Jesus. But there are people who it takes 2 or sometimes 3 tries to get in. So don't feel discouraged. It's very competitive. Seats are very limited. Most programs only have 30 to 50 seats. So if you don't get in the first time, just keep trying. I feel like I'm rambling. Did I answer the question? You should get good grades because it's very competitive. How did you find out your program focuses more on mental health? Where can I start to find this with my program? You can look on the website and look up, they usually have their curriculum. So if you look at the curriculum and look at the title or names of the classes, you should get an idea of what the next 2 years will probably look like. Would you recommend doing an OTD or an MOT right after a bachelor's in occupational therapy? So this is also a personal decision, but if you want my opinion, which you kind of do because you asked me, I say do your MOT, your master's. If you want to pursue your doctorate later on in life, if you want to do it after your master's, go ahead, all power to you. But from what I hear, this is a huge debate in the OT world right now. Salary wise and getting a job wise, there's really no advantage to the OTD versus the master's. Your salary is pretty much the same and getting your doctorate is a lot more expensive than getting your master's. I personally would say get your master's while you still can, because there are talks being made that they're going to make it an entry-level doctorate where you can no longer get your master's. So I say while you still can, get it. It's a lot cheaper. It is faster to do than your doctorate. And if you realize that you want to do research or teach somewhere along the line, then go ahead and get your doctorate. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so now we're getting into the juicier questions. I'm gonna be spilling the tea. You know, I graduated, so I can technically spill the tea. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna be that harsh, but I'll try to be as honest as possible with these questions. I got accepted to Columbia for OT for fall 2020, and my only worry right now is the student loans. How do you go past that thought? I get a bit stressed about it. Girl, me too. So for those who don't know, Columbia was very expensive. And I took out a lot of loans to pay for that education. So essentially I am drowning in debt. How do I get past it? I just don't think about it, honestly. I think about it as an investment. I invested into my education and hopefully it was worth it. That's honestly the only thing I can tell myself at this point. I haven't started paying off my loans yet. Once I get there, once I get to that part of my journey, you guys will follow me and be there with me, so I'll let you know how that goes. In undergrad, I was EOF, so I barely had to pay for college. If you guys know what EOF is, I see you. So I understand the stress, I understand the worry, but honestly, when I took out those loans, I did it trusting in God and trusting that He will provide and He will guide me through it, and we'll see what happens. So if you want to contribute to me paying off my student debt, then please subscribe, like, comment on this video. It really helps me out. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year so I can get monetized. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it because student loans are around the corner. When did you start shadowing during your undergrad? Did you call places and ask to shadow? I started shadowing sophomore year of undergrad. I'm lying, just kidding. I actually started shadowing much younger. I started shadowing when I was 12, 13 because my brother was diagnosed with autism and I used to attend his therapy sessions with him. So technically, even though those hours didn't count towards my shadowing hours, that's really when I started shadowing. But officially, the hours that counted I started shadowing my sophomore year of undergrad. I looked up occupational therapy places on Google. I looked at the number, called them up. I asked, hey, I'm a student. I want to go to OT school. I'm just wondering if you have any shadowing opportunities for me. And sometimes they said no, sometimes they said yes. And we would schedule a day or a week for me to come in and do those hours. And yeah, that's what I did. That's how I got them. Okay, what did you major in as an undergrad? I think I've answered this a lot of times, but psychology. It's actually ranked one of the top 10 worst majors to major in, but I majored in it knowing that my eventual goal was to go to OT school. I didn't major in it thinking that I was gonna do psychology. Did your major cover all of your prereqs, or did you have to take extras separately? So it covered some of the prereqs, but it didn't cover all of them. I feel like the major that probably covers most of the prereqs is exercise science. I don't know, I just feel like a lot of the people who were exercise science in my class felt the most prepared for OT school. I don't know if that makes sense. Did you do anything to prepare for OT school as an undergrad besides shadowing? Girl, no. I did absolutely nothing because I knew that once I was in OT school, it would be all crying, no breaks from there. So I don't really think I did anything prepare. At least I wasn't trying to do anything to prepare. I was just trying to enjoy the little time that I had left before I started school again. I got this question a lot. A lot of people are nosy, and it was, what was your GPA? My GPA was a 3.67. Okay, here comes the juicy. What are your thoughts on Columbia's program? As somebody who has officially graduated Columbia's program about an hour ago and just had a very emotional graduation ceremony and has gone through the pandemic that ended her last semester, I very much miss my program. Now, if you would have asked me this question like last year or like months into the program, I would have probably answered very differently. And it all stems back to the fact that I wasn't really interested in the mental health aspect of OT school. And that was pretty much what most of what we did our first year. So again, now I'm grateful. Now I look back at it and I'm like, you know what? It wasn't so bad, Crystal. But when I was in it, when I was going through it, I was not really a happy camper. Like any program, I feel like it has its ups and it has its downs, but I honestly can say for certain, I don't regret going there. I feel like I learned a lot. I feel well prepared to go into the field, but there were definitely some things about the program that could improve. And I'm gonna leave it at that. What stood out to you about Columbia over other programs? When I was making my decision, I applied to 4 programs. I only got into 3, and those programs were Kane, NYU, and Columbia. Already off the bat, I knew I wanted to live in the city because I wanted a new experience. I wanted to leave the Jersey bubble. So already I knew my decision was between NYU and Columbia. Now these are 2 of the most expensive OT schools, so I was already in the pickle. But in the end, and I'm being like 100% honest here, what it came down to was cost and time. So NYU's program was slightly more costly than Columbia's, and it took longer to finish than Columbia's. So due to those circumstances, I decided Columbia was it. Columbia was my girl. Columbia is my dream school. How much did you study to get in? I feel like everyone's different and everyone's study habits are different. Like my brother, I never see him like crack open a book and he gets straight A's. Meanwhile, I need to study like all day in order to get straight A's. So during undergrad, I practically lived in the library. I studied all the time. And I had to work hard for the grades that I did. They didn't come easy to me. I feel like it just depends on the type of person that you are. I had to study a lot to get to where I am, but then there's people who, even in my class, my classmates in OT school, like there were some people who they could cram and study the night before and they'd end up with A's. But that just wasn't me. I had to eat, sleep, and breathe OT school. school. Did you feel safe at Columbia? I did feel safe. The OT program is on the medical campus, which is separate from Columbia's main campus. Columbia's main campus is on 116th Street, if you guys know your New York City streets. And the medical campus is on 168th. So that's like Washington Heights neighborhood. I felt at home because Washington Heights has a very heavy Hispanic Dominican population. So I identified with the neighborhood. I felt pretty safe. But overall around the campus, there was always security. Things were always well lit. So never once did I felt unsafe to like walk to the grocery store alone. But you know, you can never be too careful. Always walk with a buddy, always walk during daylight. I will say though, there is a homeless shelter across the street from the campus. So there are a lot of homeless people around the area. But really, I never felt unsafe. They were actually pretty friendly. The only thing that probably felt unsafe was my wallet, because I don't know if my face is very inviting, but I've gotten hustled to the point that I had to start walking with headphones even if I wasn't listening to anything, because I already told you I'm EOF, so I'm broke. But for some reason I just can't say no to people sometimes. And I actually have a pretty funny story. Maybe I'll do a story time of how I got hustled by a homeless person. If you guys are interested in seeing that, let me know. But to answer your question, I never felt unsafe. Do you have any advice of what to consider while deciding between school / what matters more in terms of looking for a job in the future? Do your research on the programs, see what they're about, see what their curriculum is, call the programs, ask them questions. Price should definitely be taken into consideration, even though I didn't. Location is also a big one. That's actually the one that mattered most to me. But when it comes to looking for a job in the future, honestly, any program that you go to, you're gonna be fine, because OT, like I said, is such a diverse and growing profession that you're practically guaranteed a job. It's very easy for you to find a job within OT once you graduate. So I don't think that should factor too heavily into your decision. Would you say Columbia is worth the expensive tuition? And was it competitive / difficult to get in? Listen, people.
Listen, Linda. Listen.
I don't think any school is worth the expensive tuition. I think it's honestly a little ridiculous that we have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for an education, but this is America. But to answer your question, to be completely honest, is Columbia a good program? Columbia is a great program. Is it worth the debt that I'm in? I honestly don't think so, and that's just my honest opinion coming from someone who's poor. Okay, and then was it competitive / difficult to get in? During orientation, they actually told us they had around 500 applicants and accepted around 54 students. And every year it's just getting more and more competitive. So you do 54 divided by 500, that's like a 10% chance of getting in. But yeah, I'd say it's pretty competitive. But then again, all OT programs are very competitive. And then last question, any advice while going through the program? Take everything in one day at a time. Don't focus so much on grades. Focus on building relationships, networking, actually learning the material so that you're prepared for field work and to eventually get a job. And just enjoy the ride, have fun. I feel like all our lives from kindergarten to senior year of college, we're so focused on grades, especially if you're competing to like go into an OT program or any type of graduate program. But once you're in OT school, you made it. Like all of that is over. There's no more competition. Everyone's really just there to help you. My class, we had a group chat going where we would share study notes, we would make study groups, and we would really help each other out, because at this point it wasn't about getting the best grade anymore. It was about learning the material to be a good OT. So yeah, have fun, enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. And I know this is probably a super long video, so if you're here, if you made it to this point, thank you so much. Why not subscribe since you're already here? If you guys have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Just leave a comment down below or DM me on Instagram and maybe I'll make another Q&A. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.